Daniel wasn't supposed to be at that cafe. He had planned to drive straight home after another long shift at the hospital, but the rain began pouring so heavily that the roads blurred into silver lines. His wipers struggled against the downpour, and something inside him felt just as restless. Instead of turning toward his empty apartment, he pulled into the parking lot of a small corner cafe he hadn't visited in years. The place was nearly full. Warm yellow lights glowed through fogged windows, and the smell of fresh bread wrapped around him the moment he stepped inside. A soft instrumental worship song played in the background, barely noticeable over the low hum of conversations. Daniel preferred solitude. He scanned the room and found one small two-person table near the window. He placed his coat on the chair opposite him, a silent sign that he wanted to be alone. He ordered black coffee, no sugar, no cream, just bitterness. He had grown used to bitterness. 2 years earlier, he had lost his wife, Emily, during childbirth. Their daughter had survived only a few days in the NICU before following her mother into eternity. Daniel had buried both of them within the same week. Since then, faith had felt distant. He still believed in God, but the warmth of that belief had cooled into something quiet and numb. The bell above the cafe door chimed again. A young woman stepped in, shaking rain from her hair. She looked slightly flustered, scanning the crowded room the way Daniel had moments ago. She wore a simple navy sweater and carried a worn leather bag against her side. Her eyes moved from table to table until they landed on the empty chair across from him. She hesitated. Then she walked over. "Excuse me," she said softly. "I'm so sorry, but would you mind if I sat here? It's packed." Daniel blinked. He had forgotten about the coat. For a split second he considered saying no. He had come for quiet, for distance. But something in her expression, polite, hopeful, slightly embarrassed, made him move his coat aside. "It's fine," he said. "Go ahead." "Thank you," she replied, offering a small smile as she sat down. "I promise I won't take up much space." She set her bag down carefully, as if even her belongings were trying not to intrude. They didn't speak for several minutes. She ordered tea. He stared out the window. Rain tapped gently against the glass, soft and steady. Daniel noticed she kept glancing at him, like she was debating whether to say something. Finally, she cleared her throat. "I'm really sorry again," she said. "I didn't mean to sit at someone else's table. My car broke down and I had to run in here to get out of the rain." Daniel looked at her properly for the first time. "You're stranded." She gave a half laugh. "Apparently. It started making a horrible noise about 2 blocks away. I barely made it to the curb." "That's not good," he said automatically, the doctor in him surfacing. "I figured," she replied. "I'm Hannah, by the way, since I've invaded your table." "Daniel." They shook hands across the small table. Her hand was warm, steady. There was something grounding about her presence, something calm that didn't feel forced. "Do you live around here?" she asked. "About 15 minutes away." She nodded. "I just moved here last month. New job, new everything." He didn't ask why she had moved. He wasn't sure he wanted to open doors that led to personal stories, but she continued anyway. "I used to teach in a small town," she said. "After my mom passed away, I just needed a change." Daniel felt the familiar ache in his chest at the word past. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "Thank you." Their conversation drifted from small talk to deeper waters without either of them noticing. She told him about her students. He told her about long hospital nights and how sometimes he stayed late just to avoid going home. He didn't know why he admitted that. Hannah didn't pity him. She didn't offer quick comfort cliches. She just listened. And for the first time in a long time, Daniel felt heard. When the cafe announced it was closing early due to worsening weather, Hannah glanced anxiously toward the window. "My car," she murmured. "I can take a look at it." Daniel offered before he could stop himself. "I'm not a mechanic, but I know enough to tell if it's serious." "You don't have to. It's fine." Outside, the rain had softened to a drizzle. They walked together beneath the awning and toward the curb where her small sedan sat with its hazard lights blinking faintly. Daniel opened the hood and leaned in. Within minutes, he spotted the issue, a loose serpentine belt that had slipped off track. "It's not catastrophic," he said, "but you shouldn't drive it far like this." She sighed with relief. "That's good news, right?" "It's fixable. I know a guy who can help first thing in the morning." Hannah looked at him for a moment, rain clinging to her lashes. "It's strange," she said. "If I hadn't taken a wrong turn earlier, I wouldn't have broken down here. And if I hadn't broken down here, I wouldn't have ended up at your table." Daniel shrugged lightly. "Just coincidence." She smiled gently. "Maybe." But as he drove her to a nearby hotel for the night, something in his chest felt different, warmer, less empty. He tried not to read into it. After all, she had just sat by mistake. Daniel didn't expect to see Hannah again. He assumed he had simply helped a stranded stranger, and that would be the end of it. But the next afternoon, as he walked out of the hospital, he spotted a familiar navy sweater near the entrance. Hannah stood there, holding 2 cups of coffee. "I owe you," she said when she saw him. "Your mechanic friend saved me a fortune." "You didn't have to wait for me." "I know, but I wanted to." They sat on a bench outside the hospital. The sky had cleared into a pale blue, the kind that felt like quiet mercy after a storm. "I almost didn't move here," she admitted. "I was scared. Everything felt uncertain. I prayed for a sign that I was in the right place." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "And?" She smiled at him, steady and sure. "And then my car broke down, and I met a widowed doctor who pretends he doesn't need company." He looked away, surprised. "You talk too much," he said lightly. "Occupational hazard, I'm a teacher." He should have been annoyed. Instead, he felt exposed in a way that wasn't uncomfortable. Over the next few weeks, they met often. Coffee turned into dinners. Dinners turned into long walks. Long walks turned into conversations about faith, grief, and the strange ways life rearranges itself after loss. Hannah didn't try to replace Emily. She didn't avoid talking about her either. She asked about Daniel's wife gently, respectfully. "What was she like?" Hannah asked one evening. "Loud," he said with a faint smile. "She laughed at everything. She used to say I was too serious." Hannah tilted her head. She was right. He chuckled despite himself. "You still love her," Hannah said. "I always will." "That's not a competition," she replied softly. Those words stayed with him. For the first time since the funeral, Daniel found himself praying again, not out of habit, but out of gratitude. He began to wonder if maybe God hadn't abandoned him after all. One Sunday, Hannah invited him to church. He hesitated but agreed. During the sermon, the pastor spoke about divine appointments, moments that look like accidents but are guided by unseen hands. Daniel felt his throat tighten. After the service, they stood outside beneath bright sunlight. "You don't really think it was just coincidence, do you?" Hannah asked gently. He looked at her, at the way she had entered his life quietly, at how she hadn't forced healing but had patiently walked beside him, at how laughter had begun to return in small, surprising bursts. "No," he admitted slowly, "I don't think it was." Months passed. Daniel's apartment no longer felt like a hollow shell. Hannah's presence had softened the edges of grief, not erased it, but transformed it. One evening, they returned to the same cafe where they had first met. The rain fell again, almost poetically. They sat at the same table by the window. "This seat was yours," Daniel said, gesturing to the chair she had taken by mistake. She laughed. "I was desperate. And I was closed off." She reached across the table and took his hand. I think God knew we were both stuck, she said, so he nudged us into each other's path. Daniel looked at her, emotion rising in his chest. I used to think God took everything from me, he confessed. But maybe he was preparing my heart to receive something new. Hannah squeezed his hand gently. I don't replace your past, she said. I'm just part of your future. He swallowed hard. Will you stay part of it? He asked. Her eyes shimmered, yes. Outside, the rain continued to fall, but inside the cafe, warmth wrapped around them once again. She had sat by mistake. But Daniel now understood something he hadn't allowed himself to believe before. God had brought her there for a reason. And sometimes, the most beautiful beginnings look exactly like accidents.